Folks, welcome back to Toasting the Business. This is like a little different today.
It is.
Can you feel the bristle in the air?
Yeah, it's called humidity. Yeah.
It's starting. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
But the show's a little slightly different. I mean, we'll get into that part in a second. Let's talk about our sponsor. Let's thank our sponsor, who is not here today with us.
Yeah.
She did it.
She asked for day off.
She did.
Yeah,
Can I have the day off? I'm like, yeah, go close a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to thank Megan with Perspective without an E on the end. Her website is Get Perspective. And what is that all about?
It is about finding what you would love or may love to do. If you're out searching for a career and you're not sure which direction to go, this website is a great resource to help you figure that out. She has videos on there of almost any kind of profession you can possibly think of and long form interviews of these professionals. And it's really helpful in helping you decide the ins and outs of specific career paths.
And now we're going to go to Spain to see if I should be an olive farmer.
Yeah. Can I be your assistant? I want to go. I want to bail out.
We talked about that last week. But anyway, if you'd like to know more about it, you can go to getperspective.com, and that's getperspective without an E.com. If you were driving in the car, don't try to text it or write it down. Just go to our website and you'll see it in the show notes. So we want to thank Megan. She usually plies us with delicious beverages every week, but this week not. And the thing is, I think when I told Linda this the other day, she about fell down.
Mm-hmm. I about fell down when you told me. Yeah.
So I am not going to drink for the rest of the month of June.
Okay, I'll check back in with you next week.
So we'll see. But I want you to be witness. I am going to have a ginger beer because I need a little flavor. I can only drink so much water.
Oh, I can drink water all day, but I get you.
Just to prove it, and you can watch the video, folks. There's nothing else going in that glass except Fever Tree ginger beer, okay? But yeah, it's good for the body. Flush it out, make some changes. So let's move along here. Our guest today is John Hewitt. John I'll let him tell everybody what he does, but because of what John does in the world of franchises, I don't know how to.
Yeah, franchising.
Okay. We asked to have Carrie Ann come on, who has been on the show before. She helps people make decisions about the types of franchises they may consider purchasing. She doesn't tell them yes or no. She just points out all the facts and says, here you go. So knowing we were going to have John on, I reached out to her and she was gracious enough to join us on the show today. By phone, she's not on video. So if you go to YouTube and you want to see her, you're like, oh, she's not there.
Right.
She's temporary. She's in the process of moving, but enough about that.
Right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's rock and roll. John, welcome. We'll let you tell us a little bit more about yourself because you have an impressive, short, like big chunk of a resume there. And I was like, holy cow, wow, that's a lot.
Sure. I've been in franchising for 55 years. I'm the self-proclaimed great granddaddy of income tax. I started when I was at the University of Buffalo working part-time for H&R Block and loved it. 12 years later, I was running 250 H&R Block locations. And that was my goal in life, is to be a Block regional director. And my dad interceded. He was the CFO of a public company, and he decided he liked the little Apple he bought by mail better than the mainframe that was running his public company. So it took him a long time, almost a year, to convince me, but I left H&R Block, and he and I developed in 1981 the first tax software for an Apple computer. Way ahead of its time, no one wanted it, and got blessed and found a company in Virginia Beach called Mel Jackson Tax Service. The biggest blessing was the weather in Virginia Beach is a lot nicer than Boulder or Buffalo. And so I've been here ever since. We bought it in August of 82 and been here ever since. And we changed the name to Jackson Hewitt. Mm-hmm. We merged the two companies. We went public, and 15 years later, sold it for $483 million.
That's a little piece of change.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And Jackson Hewitt went on to be $1 billion company And today they have 6,000 locations. So my first major retail success was a $1 billion company.
So
Then,
here's the first question I have. Since you're formerly from Buffalo, who has the best wings in Buffalo?
well, that's a great question. I'm old enough to remember when I first went to the Anchor Bar in 1967. It was the only place in the world. It was the place that had invented buffalo wings. You couldn't get buffalo wings anywhere else. And today you can get them in 100 different countries.
Right.
So everyone knows buffalo wings, but the best chicken wings in Buffalo is a chain called Duff's, Duffs, FFS. Duff's has the best wings that I've ever had.
All right. Well, with $460 million after the sale, you could have a lot of wings. So
483 million.
483 million.
So we kind of interrupted about the buffalo wings part.
Sorry, I had to know.
So you were talking about Jackson Hewitt, how successful they were, and then you were going to say, and then what have you been doing since then?
And then that was 28 years ago. Then I had to decide, what am I going to do next? And I decided that to get back in the tax business. And my non-compete, my 3-year non-compete covered virtually the entire United States because Jackson Hewitt is everywhere. And it didn't cover Canada because Jackson Hewitt's never gone to Canada. Having grown up in Buffalo, I knew the Canadian tax system. I knew how successful H&R Block was in Canada. So we opened Liberty Tax in Canada in 1998. And within 3 years, we became one of the top 100 retail chains in Canada. So now I built one of the top 100 retail chains in US and one in Canada. In 2000, when my non-compete ended, I came back to the United States with Liberty Tax. And now I had to compete against my own name, my own software, my own people, my own system. And yet not only did we grow faster than Jackson Hewitt, we grew faster than them and H&R Block combined. We are the top 10 fastest growing franchisor of all time. We opened almost a franchise a day for 12 years. So 330 franchises a year, 4,000 offices in 12 years. Again, my second public company, again, worth $500 million. Again, I sold my stock. And my last career, I'm 75 this month, my last career is at Loyalty Brands, where we have 8 different franchise systems. And the fastest growing, believe it or not, is not in tax, which is second fast. It's in mobile pet grooming.
Mobile pet grooming. Oh, right up your alley.
I've seen them around town here. A couple. I think they're independent though. But
so
we have them. We have about half a dozen in the Denver market.
Okay. We're in Georgia, just south of Atlanta.
What about Atlanta?
Oh, you're in Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 3 or 4 in Atlanta.
Okay. All right.
So what do you think of this, Carrie Ann? You've got to have some questions.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive. Very, very impressive. I know that you're now the CEO, correct, of Loyalty Brands.
Right.
Yeah. So you've got a number of franchises, and the mobile grooming is a ginormous industry. I think because obviously COVID made us all a little bit more demanding of, do it for me, instant gratification. I mean, we were already pretty bad with that due to Amazon.
I'm still bad at that with Amazon.
I think people don't want to. A lot of people are working from home now, obviously, because of COVID, and they don't want to have to take, Charlie or Harold or whoever, to the groomer, and then, bring them back. And so, mobile grooming is ginormous. I think it's on the trend. I don't know, John, would you agree that the demand is so high that the number one problem is just getting enough trucks on the road to service the customers that you have, right?
The interesting thing is we're in 75 we're not even 3 years old yet. We're in 75 cities and 25 states. But everywhere in the country, I have my prospective franchisees that you deal with all the time. I say, call up and ask how long it will take your dog to be groomed. And everywhere, all 75 cities, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. The demand is amazing.
Demand is high.
Wow. Huh. Now, see,
The demand is ginormous, but you know, I don't know. You know, I don't know if you want to talk about the actual name of your mobile grooming.
I'm open to talk about anything.
Yeah, Zoom and Grooming.
The name is Zoom and Grooming.
Yeah, I love that.
Zoom and Groom.
So there is I don't know if I would say a competitor, but there, you know, obviously you're not the only, you know, cat in town, right? But here's the thing. I had moved to Texas last year. And I was like, I got to get on the bandwagon of mobile grooming. And yeah, it took like 6 weeks before I could get on someone's schedule. But the problem was logistics. So I'm curious to learn about the logistics because, you know, being in Texas, it takes a long time to get anywhere. And, you know, we would have a set appointment. They were supposed to come at 11 on, you know, every fourth Friday. They'd show up sometimes 2 hours late because the mapping software that the franchisor was using was like at a call center in Michigan. And they'd look on the map and go, oh yeah, it's just this short little distance. They should be able to get there in like a half an hour. And it was throwing up all their schedules, and it got so frustrating, I finally had to just cancel the contract.
What part of Texas are you in?
Well, I moved back to Colorado because Texas and I didn't agree, but I was in Fort Worth.
So our software is exquisite, fantastic. You know, what we do one thing that almost no company does, and that is we call all our customers 2 days after we've serviced them in all our brands. So almost no one makes those calls. And I learned a long time ago that, well, it wasn't that long ago, about 15 years ago, I learned that 15 years ago, I learned from one of my favorite authors, Stan Phelps, that he said that when you're going to a party or a meeting, you're never exactly on time. You're either early or late, and almost no one shows up exactly on time. And he said, in the same vein, you never meet a customer's expectations. You either exceed it or fail to meet it. So we judge our performance on having a higher and higher, knowing that we can't please every customer, but a higher and higher percentage of customers that we exceed expectations. So we call our customers and ask them, and that's not a complaint of our customers. So our software is state of the art and we're typically right on time, early.
So is that
nice.
part of, if I come in to buy a franchise of Zoom and Groom, is it part of the contract or agreement that the corporate headquarters is calling the customers to check on them for customer service, or is that something that I have to do for my individual branch or entity of that franchise?
What we do is our system is that a franchisee calls every one of their customers 100%, and that we spot check them. So we'll call 10 a month. They'll call every customer.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit. I've always been curious about how does one get into purchasing a franchise? To me, it's a little intimidating. I don't come from a world of entrepreneurs, and I've heard, there's various levels of entry into franchises. Say Carrie Ann's helping me out and mobile grooming is a match. What kind of financing or money do I need to have in order to get started with the mobile grooming?
Well, let me answer that in two ways, because I've had 10 different franchise systems. So let me answer it in a big picture way that what my experience is, to be a successful entrepreneur, franchisee, you need two things. You need management ability,
Yeah.
and you need money.
Right.
And Carrie Ann, I've learned that I can raise money. I've built two companies worth $1.5 billion. I can raise money a lot easier than I can find great people. So what I tell my prospects, if I determine that you're the right prospect, I will figure a way to get you a franchise. So, but having said that, in the startup cost in our document for a Zoom and Grumman is the total. There's two costs. One is the franchise fee, the training, the startup marketing, hiring. That's about $50,000 or $60,000.
Okay.
Also there's a van that including upfitting, because you have to be able to stand up in the van. It has to be air conditioned or heated, and it's a very beautiful van, huge. Including the outfitting is about $90,000.
Okay.
However, almost every one of our franchisees leases the van. So it typically only costs less than $2,000 a month, and this is the only franchise system I've ever seen that you're cash flow positive the day you start.
Yeah. Hey now. Yeah. I mean, $2,000 a month in exchange. What am I trying to say? Versus brick and mortar, which could be a whole lot more a month.
It's a hell of a lot less startup though, because initially with those two numbers, you're talking 150, 160,000, but instead now you're 50,000 and then $2,000, so $52,000.
Right.
But I'm sure you have to go through, all the different steps. I know that depending on the type of franchise, and if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. But certain ones, other franchises like gyms and such, or even food, it's when you start it up, the products that you purchase you can only buy them exclusively from the franchisor. Is that it? Did I use the right phrase?
What they usually do, the franchisor requires you to use a certain vendor.
Yeah.
So we don't have any
vendor. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them require you. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts, you can only use this vendor.
Right.
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 Pizza Hut, you can only use this vendor. So it depends on the brand, but because they take a cut out of that. So if Dunkin' Donuts sells you the cups and the coffee and the pastry and whatever, then they get a cut out of that. We have no such deals. So we give you our preferred vendors with a preferred deal, but we do not require that you buy anything from a specific vendor.
Okay.
Yeah, I know one. I was looking at the papers for somebody, and I said, "Do you see this clause in here?" They're like, "What are you pointing at?" And I'm like, "This whole paragraph." So it was your marketing scaled according to your income that was coming in. So the more money the business was making, the more you were required to spend on marketing.
Wow.
Out there. And they're like, and we have a marketing department who will help you with that.
But that costs.
But that's part of that cost. So it's like, if my business is scaling, yes, you want to be consciously, you want to be in the awareness of the public. But as the business grows, do you need to be in their face all that much time. More?
Yeah.
If you're growing, I mean, I don't know, like in a small town, I have no idea. That's interesting though. What made you say, we're going to do Zoom and Groom? There's got to be a lot of, you just don't just pick like Lynn is saying, as a franchisee, you're not just grabbing something out of the air and then calling Carrie Ann and going, this is what I want to do. Let me know if you think it'll work.
Right.
And on John's side, I'm sure you didn't say, I think mobile grooming's it. Let's just do it. I mean, you had to put a lot of research into that to make that decision, because you don't want to have a bad name out there, right? You don't want people to go, this is a really shitty franchise. Don't invest your money in this. You're not going to be cash flow positive, like he said. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. You want to have a good name, a good reputation, and it's got to be a win-win for everybody across the board. So how do you go about that? How do you research those ideas and say, this is our next franchise that we're going to launch?
Well, let me say that's about an hour discussion. So I'm gonna,
Okay. Yeah. Give me the Reader's Digest version.
I'm going to whittle it down to just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And, I do a weekly mentoring webinar. And on a few weeks ago, I did a whole webinar on who should franchise. Should you franchise or not franchise? And let me say this as an aside, 90% of franchisors fail. So the average franchisor in this country, there are 4,000 franchisors in this country that belong to the International Franchise Association. And guess how many, let me ask you a question and then I'll finish your answer. Guess how many the average to be in the top 2,000, top half of all franchisors in this country, how many locations do you have to have?
Personally, or the
Marianne,
franchisor?
I'm going to go for 10.
What was the question again? To be successful?
To be in the top 50%.
Oh,
of
top 50%.
Franchisors of this country. The McDonald's and the Subways and the and Jackson Hewitts and the Zoom and Grumman. They have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands. But to be in the top 50%, guess how many you have to have?
I would say 250.
20.
20.
Most,
20.
Okay.
most franchisors go out of business. There have been 4,000. There are 4,000 today. In the last 10 years, 4,000 have gone out of business.
Wow.
So I did a whole podcast on that, or webinar, and it's available on my website. You can go listen to it. So what we look for at Zoom and Grumman, we look for, first of all, you have to have a successful location. Then it has to be replicable. And it has to be replicable by, I won't say average people, but a little bit above average people. I brought in 5,200 franchisees in my career. And some of them are extraordinary. Some of them are not the opposite of extraordinary. And most are mediocre or somewhere in between. So it has to be replicable by a somewhat, let's call it a B student in high school, or a B student in college, or a BC student. And so that's what we look at when we decide whether we're going to bring someone into our system, into our machine where we grow franchise systems.
Yeah, okay. I get that. I mean, I've had folks ask me about this place
not
long ago, and they're like, is it a franchise? I'm like, no, it's mine.
Right.
That's this one. And then I go, have you ever thought about franchising? I'm like, oh God, no, I'm not going to do that. And I wouldn't do that to anybody else. It's definitely, it's profitable, but I don't think it's like hugely profitable. And I've seen some of the co-working offices who are out there and that are a franchise.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, and hopefully you guys agree, stay the hell away from them. Okay.
Okay.
You're not going to, I would like to see one that's successful. I'd like to see a successful franchise co-working office that isn't bleeding the franchisee dry.
Right.
Especially with startup costs and everything else. I'm going to guess it might take 10 years would be on my scale to break even.
Yeah.
So
you're saying if I say I wanted to start, to buy into your franchise, and I live here in Peachtree City, Georgia, which is fairly affluent, and there's a lot of dogs here.
There's a lot of dogs.
You're saying you'd look at the possibility of me also helping to bring other franchisees in, or just to expand from the 1 to 20?
No, I have, as a matter of course, if my goal is to make you a happy, successful franchise.
Okay.
And as long, and I've had thousands of them, I've created 1,000 millionaires. So my job is to give you the best system in the industry. Your job is to follow that system. And as a matter of course, if you're happy, you're going to refer people to me and you're going to be a validator. But I don't require any franchisee do anything except for manage their business.
Okay.
I teach you to be CEO of your business. You don't have any other requirement to bring in another human being or anything.
Okay. I get it. I get it now. Yeah. Interesting. That's really interesting.
However, I mean, I will say there are different roles you can play as a franchisee. So, for example, last year, I placed a woman in Colorado who is a regional developer for a pet grooming franchise. So depend on the franchise. So the roles you can play as a franchise owner, you can be the expert or the artisan, if you will. And you are the business. Now, those businesses are not dog grooming businesses. Those are, consulting and coaching businesses, right? Where you don't need any other employees. You are the business. They're very high prospecting businesses. They have to go out and make stuff happen because nobody else is going to. But those businesses give people a ton of flexibility and no cap to their earnings, right? Because when they go out, they're able to make it's low volume for a large ROI.
And that's a good point. And remember, I said you're not required to, but if you refer someone, then we give you a $3,000 referral fee. We also have, as you're talking about, we have area representatives. We have two levels of franchise. One's an area representative that brings in unit franchisees. So we have that system, but there's no requirement.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and to that point, John, you would agree with me. You have to qualify to be beyond a single territory owner, financially and skill set wise, right? So like my gal that bought the rights to Colorado, area developer, regional developer. It depends on, the system, but it's pretty much, for the most part, the same thing. You're an empire builder. You're going to own and control a particular market. So Marilyn bought the rights to Colorado. She has one pilot store, her store, and then she's going to help bring new franchisees into Colorado because Colorado will hold 26 of their particular stores. Now, as a regional developer, she is going to help support those other franchisees, but for that additional local support, she gets mailbox money. She gets a percentage of the royalty that every franchisee has to pay, and she gets a cut of the franchise fee.
That we have exactly the same thing. And our area representative in Colorado started a year ago and already has 6 locations, and 3 of them are their own. And we give them half of the franchise fee and half of the royalty.
Nice.
Yeah. So it depends on the system, really, if they offer that. Many franchisors do not offer area developers and regional.
Most don't.
Yeah.
Is that like a buyer beware kind of thing?
Unique. Yeah, it's a unique scenario.
Okay. I was just curious if that's like an investor beware or buyer beware kind of thing. Like if you're looking at a franchise, would that be considered a red flag if you're not receiving part of the incentives if you bring other folks on board?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That would be a red flag because you're working on behalf. You're basically a sub-franchisor at that point, right? Okay. So you're selling and developing and helping train all of those franchisees. So you need to get compensated for that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What are some of the other franchises that you have currently out there in the market, John?
Well, we also have ATAX, and I've been in the tax industry for I just completed my 55th tax season. So I call myself fondly the great grandfather of taxes because I have 5 great grandchildren. And ATAX grew faster than Jackson Hewitt and H&R Block and Liberty Tax combined. So I've always been part of the fastest growing tax service. We have our newest franchise is roofing. We have CR3 Roofing, where we do we specialize in roofing and solar and siding, and we're about to open a storefront grooming that runs in parallel with our mobile grooming.
Oh, wow.
Go grab the dogs and bring them back instead. How do you? Okay, so the roofing business, was this somebody that you came in contact with who already had a roofing company, and you're like, I like your system, I like the way it works. Have you ever considered franchising? And then the two of you melded together to create this franchise opportunity for folks, or is it something that you said, I think this is a good idea, let's go?
All of my 8 systems have founders or CEOs that have run the business before.
Okay.
So yes, they're headquartered in Hanover, Pennsylvania, and he had built a successful regional roofing organization. And we said, okay, I like the model, I love the industry, and we will partner and help build a franchise system.
Be like Chris with the pool liner business.
Yeah, right. That's the first thing that came to mind was him and the pool liner. This guy we interviewed, that's all he does, pool liners, period. End of story. He doesn't repair. Nope. He doesn't maintain. He just churns and burns on pool liners, Georgia and Florida. So yeah, interesting.
Expanded.
Focus is important.
Yeah. And that's what we learned from him, is that he boiled it down to this is my jam. This is where I'm going to focus my time.
Not checking pH levels anymore.
No, algae's not my problem.
So how is the roofing taking off? Is that what that one?
We're about 1.5 years old, and at this training that's coming up in June, we'll be up to about 16 franchises. So a pretty good initial start. Mm-hmm. It's like a hockey stick approach when you build an incredibly large organization. And I built, one 4,000 units and the other 6,000. It starts out like that, and then doubles and triples and quadruples each year.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's like Nick Brannon from Hero Roofing down here. So we knew a guy he had worked for a roofing company, and then one night he's like, I think I'm going to start my own. Really good story, but he set a goal to do, what was it, $3 million his first year, I think it was, and he hit the goal. And then his second year, and now he's 4 years into it and just cranking it out.
Yeah, yes, he's doing great.
Doing really well. So that's a great franchise. It at least seems, to me, it'd be a no-brainer on that point.
Right.
But I'm not getting on roofs.
Well, you look at the industry size. The industry size of roofing and home repair is almost $60 billion. So it's fairly large.
Yeah, that is. We actually got a new roof last year, and it was based on storm damage. They used drones to take pictures of our roof, submitted it to the insurance company. The insurance company's like, yep, here's a check. And within 7 days, we had a new roof in the span of 1 day. They showed up at 5 a.m. We thought we were having a home invasion because they parked all their trucks facing the house with the lights on. My husband goes to the door in his underwear, like, what? I'm like, it's the roofers. Oh, nice. Yeah. And then they were on the roof 20 minutes later in the dark, and they were there until 8:00 that night, and that roof was done.
Wow.
And they moved on. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
Sounds
actually.
like a good franchise.
Yeah,
right there, John.
It does. Yeah, it does. Are there any franchises that you, as the grandfather of franchising or great grandfather of franchising, that you still would like to start or would like to explore that you haven't yet? Or are you kind of?
I've followed, I've been in taxes for 55 years. So,
yeah.
And I love taxes for many, many reasons, but it only grows by 1% a year. Mm-hmm. And I have to for 42 years, I've been competing against H&R Block, the 900-pound gorilla. So H&R Block had 9,000 when I started 42 years ago, and today they have 9,000. So I always wanted to be number one, and my book is called I Compete. I'm a fierce competitor, So I only got to 6,000 at Jackson Hewitt, 4,000 at Liberty. Combined, I beat them with 10,000. But I love like the mobile grooming. We'll be number one by December. We'll be number one in the country.
Wow.
We'll have over 200 vans, and we'll have 3,000 vans in 5 years. So about a little bit faster than I grew Jackson Hewitt, but not much. And I love it because we're number one. We'll be number one, and I never was number one in income tax. Okay. So I've decided I love everything pet. So my next one, as I said, that's opening next month, is a storefront grooming.
Okay.
My next one after that is probably a poop picker upper.
There's gold in that poop.
There's gold in that poop. And I'm going to stop you right there. And this is why I got all excited about this. We used to live in Minnesota. What happens in Minnesota? It's cold and it snows. And people, quite frankly, when it's that cold, they don't want to deal with going out and picking up the poop in their backyard.
It just melts and freezes at the bottom of the snow pile.
Exactly. And then what usually happens is if you have teenage kids or, middle school kids, when the snow melts, you make them go outside and clean up all the winter's poop and dispose of it. Right. So my husband and I just couldn't get over there was quite a few of those businesses in the Twin Cities. You Scoop, We Poop, I think was one of them. And we joke around about it all the time, but let's talk some more about this possibility.
Carrie Ann, do you have people, Carrie Ann, who are interested in that franchise opportunity? And you're like, yes, it's gold. Just buy it. You're fine. Invest.
Let's be honest. Nobody comes to me going, Carrie Ann, America Franchise Matchmaker. I can't wait to hear the franchises you match me up with because I've been dying to own a dog poop scooping business. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says that, right?
Right. Yeah.
But what they do say is, I want a simple business. I want low staff. I want reoccurring revenue. I want a low investment. Listen, there are 89 million dogs in the country.
Yeah.
Dogs poop. Listen to this. I can't make this stuff up. Dogs poop 66 million pounds of poop per day.
Wow.
Per day. Holy shit.
Okay. Now, my little Shih Tzu, she waits till we go on a walk and then she's the mad you-know-what. Mm-hmm. Because she will probably poop 3-4 times on a walk. But here's the important thing. Is dog poop is dangerous. Right. It is an environmental pollutant. There's a lot of toxins. In fact, here in Colorado, you don't pick up your dog's poop, you will get fined. Okay. Because it has a lot of toxins and it's environmentally not friendly. So when people come to me and say, I want a simple business, I want a low investment, I want a business that has reoccurring revenue, one that's not transactional sales, but it's got that built-in guarantee revenue coming in once a week, once a month, whatever. This is a great fit. Now, if the candidate prospective franchise buyer has a high status, meaning they would be embarrassed to tell their friends and family that they just invested in a dog scooping business, or their status is one where they want retail, they want their name in lights. They're going to tune out as soon as they hear P-O-O-P. You know what I mean? They're going to be turned off. They're going to be like, there's no way I'm going to invest. But I tell you what, there is a lot of money in picking up dog poo.
Based on the number of times I clean up dog poop.
You don't need a high school education even.
Right. Yeah.
To be at work.
Well, I mean, yeah. And guess what? You have a job. You get to be outside. You get to be tooling around town. You're not stuck behind a desk. So, and a lot of these services do yard deodorizing. They treat the brown spots. Let's go beyond that. They can also do goose poop cleanup, horse poop management. They do community pet waste. stations, in dog parks, public parks, because it is toxic and it needs to be picked up and thrown away appropriately. So this is a very, very solid business. And let's face it, dogs have replaced children in many homes.
Hello.
And,
There's
you know,
twice as many.
there's not going to be any
dogs as there are
shortage
children.
of that.
There's twice as many dogs as there are children. And
Yep.
these people make more than Uber drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't know,
And
Darren.
so, you know, it's a route-based business. It's very simple. Hopefully the franchisor has logistics figured out and a call center. But it's a fantastic business. And so while people don't come to me wanting that, when I say, remember when you told me you wanted recurring revenue, remember when you told me you wanted, you know, high ROI, low investment. Now, you know, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I want to talk to you about a business that handles pet waste management. And the ones that get it, they're like, oh my goodness, this is brilliant. I would have never thought that I should be looking at this type of business, but it checks all the boxes.
Darren, do you see yourself?
No.
Heat index is 102.
No.
You're out
Not
with a
me.
poop scoop.
Here's the thing that I can't remember if it was Carrie Ann that we talked to or somebody else. And this is one thing you can, in these franchises, give you the opportunity to, you could be the worker owner. Or you could be the manager and you hire you own the business, you run the business, and you hire the staff to go out and do that.
Right.
So if I'm looking at that
So-
opportunity,
You're going to hire the staff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Well, you don't buy a franchise to buy yourself a job.
Right.
You
We don't
buy
want
it
to work
to
around.
create an asset and to build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and to have a built-in exit strategy. You're not the doer. You're not working in the business. You're working on it. And so unless you choose that artesian expert role franchise, which is not for the masses, you're going to be either an owner operator or you're going to be a semi-absentee owner where you're going to hire a manager. Either way, the owner is not out there picking up the poo.
Right.
They have technicians that's their job and that's what they do in the business.
a poo technician.
There's got to be a fancy
So
title for
yes,
that. Yeah.
knowing it this way and the way it's
Okay.
explained, would I consider it if there's golden in that
Right.
air poo?
Yeah.
Then I'll be looking at John's franchise when he launches.
So in general, when you are working with potential franchisees and you're assessing their skills and ability, are you working with people who some don't even have a high school degree to people who are former CEOs and, you know, former senior leaders at corporations and everything else in between? And like, how do you vet people who are interested?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so for me, you know, I can tell you about the conversation I just had before I hopped on the call. I spoke to a gentleman in Chicago. He is an entrepreneur. He just recently sold his orthopedic medical device company. He still holds equity in the business, but he's no longer going to be involved day to day, and he's looking for his what next. He's obviously understands that business ownership is hard and that it's not rainbows and unicorns every day. And so he's more of a higher caliber candidate that I often work with. You know, net worth is, you know, north of 5 million, et cetera. That's my main avatar of people that I work with.
Okay.
However, I do also work with, you know, corporate displacement. People just, you know, I spoke to a woman this morning. She said, I just got fired yesterday. And I said, congratulations, you just got fired. This is now a new beginning for you. And she said, oh my gosh, really? And I said, absolutely, right? So I work with those kinds of people as well, but not as many as pure investors. I mean, I worked with a gentleman in Boston and he came to me and he said, you know, I want to own all of New England. And I said, great. Tell me what that means. And he's like, look, I've been in corporate America. I made a ton of personal sacrifices, missed out on, I can't count how many family vacations. I can't ever get that time back. But now is a time for me to create a legacy for my family. And I want to do it through franchising. And he had specific requirements. I want essential needs-based business. I don't want brick and mortar. I want, low investment, high ROI. He ended up buying 16 territories of a franchise that I found for him because he bought Boston and all the surrounding areas because he wanted to own a piece of New England. Now, he is not running that. He has a management team in place, and he runs the management team that runs the day-to-day.
Okay. And John,
So
how do you?
let me give you a different perspective.
Okay.
She's talking about the wealthy. I brought in 5,200 franchisees, and we get 100 inquiries for every franchise. So I've had 520,000 inquiries. They range from janitors to teachers to retired Army, Navy, Air Force.
Yeah, veterans make great franchisees.
To net worth of 25,000 to 25 million. So what we look for is, number one, should they be self-employed? Most people think they want to be self-employed. At least half of them shouldn't be self-employed. So once we determine, yes, you should be self-employed, we say, okay, what industry should you be in? And then once we get the industry, what vehicle should you be with? A franchise system, do it on your own, another franchise system? And then finally, is this the right time for you? Because do you have the wherewithal, the finances, the ability to leave your job, or if you need to leave your job? So we look at self-employed, industry, the right vehicle, and then is this the right time?
Have you ever told somebody who's just like, here's my money, they're writing a check, they want to write that contract regardless after you've done the vetting, and you're like, no, this isn't going to work out. You need to go. We'd love to have you, but you're not going to be successful at this one.
When you bring in franchisees, it has to be a fit. Mm-hmm. And we do something that many franchisors don't. We don't let you just sign up. We don't approve you until you finish training. So there's times that training, and the key success is how much you're going to listen to me. And out of the 5,200 people I brought in, not one has ever listened to me 100%. But the very successful listen 98%. My job is to give you the best system. Your job is to listen. Human beings aren't good at that. But yes, at training, we will send people away saying this isn't right for you.
Okay.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, that is good. And this saves you a lot of hassle and saves probably them a lot of money.
When
and
a
time.
franchisee complains, they can or fails, they can only blame two people, me or them.
Yeah.
And guess who they always blame first? Me.
Yeah. That's rough. That is really rough. Yeah.
I get it. So I want the 4 tax franchises. What have you, each time I'm assuming you're doing this, you're like, I'm going to build a better mousetrap each time. And you have to with a new iteration of it. What's been like the biggest iteration through these 4 tax franchises that now makes it the best out there?
Yeah, you're right. There have to be differentiators. If David had gone onto the same field with Goliath with the same armor, shield, and sword, there would be no David and Goliath story. He'd be the 189th guy killed by Goliath. Mm-hmm. So you have to have differentiators. So H&R Block, 900-pound gorilla, household name, Fortune 500 company. How do you compete with that? Well, remember, I built the first tax software for an Apple computer. So I beat them to computerization. So I was several years ahead of them. They were slow. Their vision in 1983 was, people ask us, they had this in their annual report. People ask us why we don't computerize. We tried it. Customers don't care. We don't save any money. We're never going to computerize. That's how visionary they were. So meantime, I'm using the computer and installing it in my offices and growing by leaps and bounds faster than them. So Jackson Hewitt grew faster than H&R Block because we computerized, and they were slow to adapt to it. then along came Liberty Tax. Now I had to compete with Jackson Hewitt and H&R Block. Well, the mistake that those companies make is they don't do any guerrilla marketing. I love guerrilla marketing. I mean, and I don't know if you've seen a Lady Liberty dancing on the street and waving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people pass hundreds of businesses on the way to work. And I say to them, how many can you remember? And they say 15, 20. I say, but if you saw a Lady Liberty dancing every day from January 1st to April 15th and in front of an, as you drove by, would that be one of the companies you remember? Yes. And we go in costume, business to business. And so we have roadside parties. We beat them up in the neighborhood. We were known in the neighborhood because we did events in the neighborhood, and they relied on national TV and radio, and everyone does that. There's one business for every 10 people in the United States. So if you're in Virginia Beach with 550,000 people, there's 55,000 businesses, 55,000 people trying to get your attention. Well, there's only one business that has a waiver in front of the street or goes business to business in a Lady Liberty costume. So Liberty beat up on Jackson Hewitt and Block. Now, in starting ATAX, the industry has changed, or the makeup of our country has changed over the last 15 or 20 years, at least 20, 25 years, that the white and African-American population is declining by about 1% a year. And so 1% less people pay or prepare that are African-American or white. Well, at Hispanic, that's growing by 7 or 8% a year. So Block and Jackson Hewitt and Liberty are poor at going after the Hispanic community. So ATAX is focused on go into the Hispanic areas and grab market share, because H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt and Liberty treat it as a generic, you know, they have their regular English speaking ads and they buy the English words when they buy words on the internet. And the three of them are fighting for the declining market. And it's like saying, John, go ahead and take the Hispanic market. So you have to have differentiators. Our biggest differentiator is that we go after the Hispanic market.
It's good. Moving along.
I know.
With that.
That's amazing.
It's a way to, it's good to, when you know and understand the market and where the demand is.
Yeah.
And then you point your future franchises in that direction and say, go get them. This is perfect. So that makes a lot of sense. I still I'm still thinking about Scoop and Poop.
We must discuss later.
Well, I can't. Dog grooming would not be for me.
No,
Definitely
not.
No. And I'm not even having people do that for. It's just there's nothing there. But
no connection.
The Scoop, I could do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's neat.
I could do that,
and it's immediate gratification because the poop's gone.
Well, here's
you can become a millionaire having a few trucks in.
I have no problem. I have no problem.
And with the way this area is growing, this part of Atlanta is growing.
I would proudly people. What do you do? Thanks for asking.
You're over at Trilith sitting at the bar. Hey, man.
Need something, Scoop?
Yeah.
I got you covered.
I got you.
Get somebody out there tomorrow. That's a wonderful idea. And so why not?
Yeah.
Going to stick a feather in that one. And
I know.
I want to revisit it. When's that one launching?
Probably by August, but no later than September 1st.
Okay. That's a good deal. I would think the most important part of that, flushing out what you need to as part of that, is the disposal part, like Karen said, and the toxicity and everything else. It's like, well, now where do you put it?
Where do you put it? Yeah.
And I'm assuming you just don't go, like if I came to your house to scoop the poop, you're going to expect me to take it with me, not throw it in your trash can.
Yeah.
Because then when you go through your trash, you're like, woo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely take it away.
Yeah.
Oof, where does it go?
I don't know. We'll have to do a little research on that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys this really quick. We've got, like 5 minutes to go, but there's a show that I love called The Pitch Show. And a while back, or a few episodes ago, they had a gentleman on who was pitching his idea, and he called Fran Shares, and it's FRAN shares. And so he's helping people to invest in franchises. And what it is it's, again, all the issues that people talk about of how much money does it cost to invest, and et cetera, et cetera. And then, as John said, are they qualified for this? And are you going to be managing the business? And this franchise is you can buy into a franchise, but a lot of it's based, and I'm going to get it wrong, so go check it out. But a lot of it's based on your experience versus the money side of it. Like if you're going to open up, you go to open up a restaurant or something. Well, I'm going to open that up. Oh, I've never sliced a piece of bread and made a sandwich for myself, yet I want to own one of these chains. But if I'm one of those people who's been working for that company for a while as a employee or a manager, and it's like, I would love the opportunity. I believe in this brand, but I don't have the money to do it. And this franchise helps them do that because based on their experience. What do you think of that idea?
I think it's fascinating.
No.
I think it's, go ahead.
Did you wait, John? What did you say? You think it's what?
I think it's totally wrong.
Totally wrong. Why?
Because I brought in 5,200 franchisees.
Mm-hmm.
I think 1,000 became millionaires. 1,000 failed. And I brought half of them, 2,600 had no experience. The people with no experience in the industry did better than the people with experience.
Okay.
Because the key is how much you're going to listen to me. I give you a proven recipe. You got to follow my recipe. I've made all the mistakes you could ever make. I've seen all the mistakes you could ever make. Your experience is a detriment because you're going to resist my advice, and that's going to cause you to fail.
So if I'm an employee, if Lynn owns one of your Zoom rooms, and I'm working for her, and I say, Lynn, I would love to own this, but I don't have the money. And you're like, no, but you're so good at it. You understand the business. You have the experience. Let's see if we can't go talk to John. You don't want that person who believes in the brand having access to buy a franchise.
That's not what I mean at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's kind of what this is. That's what this is.
What I want is someone who's going to follow the system. And so what I do is, let's say I say to Lynn, Lynn's never been in the industry before, and yet she wants financing. Then I'll say, come and work for us and prove yourself. If you prove yourself, I'll get you the financing. So if I found a good tax preparer in the tax business or a person in the grooming business, but again, like Carrie Ann said, we do not want workers, we want CEOs. Mm-hmm. So Lynn could be the best groomer and the happiest groomer of all time. I don't want someone that wants a job. I want someone that wants to be CEO. You can hire groomers. I mean, if you can hire someone that to do the work, then what are you doing? Every business needs a CEO, as Carrie Ann said, that works on the business, not in the business.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Gotcha.
You need a leader, right?
Kind of sort of think it's the same. I really do. I mean, if you still have somebody who is working for you and understands the business mm-hmm. and wants to elevate, mm-hmm. I guess if they're good enough and they're going to follow the system and listen to you, and you're still willing, as you said, you're willing to help them find that financing. If they want to elevate and not be the worker and be the CEO eventually. Mm-hmm. So I think they're on the same page.
I brought in 500 people that put no money down. Zero.
I'll take that. Scoop poop. Now, Garion, what do you think? Are you good or?
Well, I think that the franchise shares is fascinating. I would want to learn more about, to John's point, when we had our family handyman franchise that was acquired by Ace Hardware, our ideal franchise owner was not the handyman. Mm-hmm. right? Because they're a glorified technician at the end of the day. We needed someone who understood P&L, that could lead people, that could execute our marketing program. We didn't want to sell, just like HVAC franchises don't want to sell to HVAC technicians because they won't know. They'll always want to be out in the field. They won't know how to grow the business. And so, however, if the idea for franchise is we want to take an assessment and understand your leadership abilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then we're going to match you up and possibly help fund for you franchises that you can't afford today. I'm okay with that, right? I mean, there's people out there, some of the most excited people that are going to follow your system can't afford it today. And John's proven that because how many, John, did you place that had $0?
500.
500, right?
That works.
So it just, I think I would need to learn more, but I think it is fascinating that there's a group out there that's willing to help people truly live the American dream if they don't have the financial ability to do so.
That works.
Yep,
that
very
works.
good.
Well, Carrie Ann, I'm going to give you a plug first, since John was our guest, but since you were gracious enough to join us today, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yep. So they can go to my website. It's franchise-logic.com. And they can also reach me at 720-983-8870.
Okay. And John, how do people get in touch with you or check out your franchises and buy your book? I Compete Now. I want to go get that book.
If anyone sends me an email, and then I'd be glad to send them a book for free.
Okay.
But it's loyaltybrands.com.
Loyaltybrands.com. I'm going to put all that in the show notes, folks. So if you're driving, don't try to write it down.
Don't write it down. Just don't.
Although with the new, never mind. I'm not even going to go down that field. You got anything else, Lynn?
No, I'm good. This is fascinating.
Folks, I'll tell you what, thank you both for being on today. We truly appreciate it. I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah,
I'm going to Loyalty
research.
Brands to dig a little deeper.
I
Maybe
get it.
scoop a little more. But y'all have a great day. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and join us next week.